In this problem, we are asked to find the x-intercepts, the y-intercept, and the vertex of the function f of x equals to negative 4x squared minus 20x plus 24. So let's start with the x-intercept. In order to find the x-intercept, we need to set the y value equal to 0 and solve for x. So let's go ahead and do that. So remember that y is f of x. So we're setting y or f of x, so in this entire left-hand side equal to 0. So we're going to have 0 equals to negative 4x squared minus 20x plus 24. Remember that it's always helpful to have the leading coefficient as a positive value. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide by negative. But I'm going to show you guys a little trick that's going to help. Notice that all of these numbers here have a 4 in common. So to make things easier on ourselves, instead of dividing just by a negative 1, here's what we could do. We could divide by the greatest common factor, which is a negative 4. And that'll help us work with smaller numbers. And if you divide the right side by negative 4, we got to divide the left side by negative 4 as well. But this only works when you have an equation that is set equal to 0. Okay, so we have 0 on the left side. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1, so we get x squared. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 5x. And 24 divided by negative 4, it's a negative 6. So now we have a much simpler equation to work with. Let's factor this. We need to find two numbers that multiply to be negative 6, add up to be negative 5. So first off, because the 6 is a negative, we're going to get one positive and one negative. For two numbers to multiply to be a negative value, we have to have one positive and one negative. Now, which numbers multiply to be negative 6 and add up to be 5? Those are going to be 6 and negative 1. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. By the zero product property, we're going to say that x equals to negative 6 or x equals to positive 1. So this is our smaller x-intercept, and this one is our larger x-intercept. And even though the problem doesn't ask for it, as ordered pairs, this is actually negative 6 comma 0 and 1 comma 0, because in order to find these x-intercepts, we set the y value equal to 0. Now for the second part, we are looking for the y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, we need to set the x value equal to 0 and solve for y. So the x value replaces the input. So since the x value is 0, we're replacing the input with 0. So we're trying to figure out what is f of 0. So f of 0 in this case, that's going to be negative 4 times 0 squared minus 20 times 0 plus 24. And notice I went back to the original equation or the original expression here because we can only divide by negative 4 when you have one side equal to 0. If you don't have that, you have to work with the original equation. So we are going to have f of 0. Anything times 0 is 0. So that's 0, that's 0. And then you have plus 24. So we have f of 0 equals to 24. So the y-intercept is 0, 24. Although they only want the actual numerical value of the y-intercept, so that'll be 24, but the ordered pair, which we should always keep in mind, is 0, 24. Now lastly, we are looking for the vertex. Here's our equation. We got f of x equals to negative 4x squared minus 20x plus 24. Now the vertex of any quadratic is given by x equals to negative b over 2a. That's how we get the x value. So let's first get the x value, then we can worry about the y later on. So the x value is going to be negative b. In this case, our b value is negative 20 divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times negative 4. Okay, so a negative times a negative is positive 20 divided by negative 8. And if we convert that to a decimal, which we should, we are going to get negative 2.5 as the x coordinate. Okay, now we got to figure out what is f of negative 2.5? So if this is your input, what is the output? So let's go ahead and replace the input with negative 2.5. And over here, we have negative 4 times negative 2.5 squared minus 20 times negative 2.5 plus 24. You can either do this, using the order of operations, or if you have a scientific calculator, you can input this all at once. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work this out piece by piece. So first, I'm doing the exponent, which is negative 2.5 squared, and that's a 6.25. So this gives me negative 4 times 6.25. And I'm only doing one step at a time. So here, I'm only simplifying the exponent. Minus 20 times negative 2.5 plus 24. Then I'm going to take the 6.25 and multiply that by negative 4, which gives me a negative 25. Then I'm going to take the negative 20 and multiply that by negative 2.5, and that gives me a positive 50. And then I have a plus 24. So if I go left to right, negative 25 plus 50, that's a 25. And 25 plus 24, this is going to give me a 49. So this means that f of negative 2.5 equals to 49, which means my vertex is negative 2.5 comma 49. And just as a reminder, we can only do this where we divide by negative 4 when the other side is equal to 0. We can't do that in these two instances.